Welcome everyone to Ein Sof Learning. I hope everybody's having an amazing day. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to explain a beginner's guide on what the 10 Sefirot are. For a person who's never heard of them before, or perhaps we have, but it's not as practical as we could make it out to be. So I'm going to read from the introduction to Sefirot, a book written by Rabbi Yaakov Haber with Rabbi David Sedley. It is a guide to spiritual refinement through counting the Omer. This is a guide to the Jewish holiday called Sefirat HaOmer. Each day to follow with one page as we're going to see what Sefirot really are. Introduction. The energy that God uses to create the world can be likened to a bright light, illuminating existence. This light is so bright and so complex that we cannot even begin to comprehend it in its totality. White light breaks down into 7 different colors when shown through a prism. In a similar way, we can begin to understand God's behavior in the world by analyzing 7 disparate aspects of His interaction with His creation. In Jewish thought, these 7 aspects are 7 of the 10 Sefirot. A Sefirah in Hebrew means a sphere, but it also relates to the words Sipur, story, Safar, number, and Sfar, boundary. Thus, the Sefirot divide the infinite unity of God into a number of parts, which allow us to read the story of creation. These Sefirot are, in a sense, God's personality and His behavior as we perceive it. The 7 Sefirot are called Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Remember that there are 10 Sefirot, but for here, in this introduction, he is explaining the 7 lower Sefirot first. They are alluded to in the verse. To you, Lord, belong the greatness, which is Chesed, the strength, which is Gevura, the glory, which is Tiferet, the victory, which is Netzach, and the splendor, which is Hod. For all that is in the heaven and in the earth is yours, which is Yesod. Yours is the kingdom, which is Malchut. This is a verse that comes from Divrei Hayamim, Chronicles, that I will put the verse on the screen for you to see on your own. Let's continue. If God's personality were limited to only these 7 behaviors, there would be no subtlety of sharing or possibility of change or growth. Therefore, each Sefirah is itself put through the prism of our understanding and broken down into smaller parts. This gives us Chesed shebechesed, kindness within kindness, Gevura shebechesed, restraint within kindness, and so on. Therefore, he is telling us here that each of these 7 Sefirot contain further Sefirot. They can be broken down into further attributes. That's why it's very important, he says, that our understanding itself is a prism through which the light of God is shown, and it splits down, broken down into smaller parts. So not only are there levels or dimensions to the creation itself, by and large, not in the truest level, meaning not in the endless light, because in the endless light, everything is even, everything is uniform. There is no higher and lower between levels of consciousness. Everything is one. But after the contraction, which is everything that we know, that's the reality that we live in, there are parts, and the perception of parts, I should say. And this gives us many parts. It's not just that there are 7 parts. Each of these 7 parts has another 7 parts. So let's go back to the 10 Sefirot. We know that there are 10 parts really. Each one of these 10 Sefirot has another 10 Sefirot. Each one of them has another 10 Sefirot. It goes on forever. There is no end. So there's an infinite amount of dimensions of consciousness. There's no end to how many differences exist within this creation. That's why he's called Ein Sof, the endless. Just as God created the world in a way that the wavelength of light goes from red through to violet, so too the Sefirot have to come into the world and appear to us in a certain order, beginning with Chesed and working toward the goal of Malchut. Just to reiterate, Chesed is the first of the lower 7 Sefirot. The upper 3 are called Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. But the lower 7 exist within the creation, which is where we dwell as well. Those 7 Sefirot are called Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and the last one is called Malchut, which refers to the earth, the physical world. That's Aretz. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. The Shamayim refers to Chesed through Yesod, which is collectively called Ze'ir Anpin, small face. There is a reason for that, but we're not going to get there right now. But Malchut refers to Aretz. That is the recipient of the lights of Shamayim, of heaven, which is the body, which is the physical, this world that we live in. It is significant to note that these Sefirot, or traits of God, do not work as independent concepts. They're not independent from each other. Chesed without Gevura paints a misleading concept of God, as does Gevura without Chesed. You can't have Chesed without Gevura. You can't have giving without limits. You can't have receiving without giving. Because every time you, first of all, receive, the only way that you can maintain it is whenever you give it. That's why you can't just learn something and never teach it. You have to teach it. And only once you teach what you've learned does what you've learned actually stay with you. So everything you receive, if you want to hold on to it, you got to give. But even everything you give, you first have to receive. You can't just give somebody a teaching if you first don't learn it yourself. You can't give someone a pencil until you receive the pencil, then you can give it over. I can't bring someone to a higher consciousness until I first attain that higher consciousness. Same thing. You can't give without receiving, you can't receive without giving. But unfortunately, there is a way to receive without giving. And that's evil. That's selfish. And that is the essence of what we call Ra in Hebrew. Ratzon Atzmi. The desire of the self. Not the self meaning the pure altruistic soul of the individual, but the desire to please the body, to self-gratify, to hell with everybody else. I want to please myself. That's the essence of evil according to Kabbalah. Let's continue. Chesed without Gevura paints a misleading concept of God, as does Gevura without Chesed. In order to have even a basic insight into God's character, all the Sefirot must be studied and turned into a unified concept. These 10 Sefirot, although they may be different aspects, they work together to create one unified function. Humanity is created in the image of God. Man was made B'Tselem Elokim. Therefore, the behaviors of God are also our potential behaviors. We have the capacity to emulate the behaviors of God. That's what it means to be made in the image of God. During the 49 days from Pesach until Shavuot, this is called Sefirat HaOmer. And during this time period, the Torah commands us to count 49 days. In addition to counting the days, the Torah also commands us to count the weeks. Thus, we have a cycle of 7 weeks. And each of these weeks, we know, is comprised of 7 days. 7 times 7, getting us 49 days. And you can already allude to what these 7 refer to. They refer to the 7 lower Sefirot. Humanity is created in the image of God. Therefore, the behaviors of God are our potential behaviors. During these 49 days from Pesach to Shavuot, called Sefirat HaOmer, we can not only study how God interacts with the world, but how we interact with the world. We can learn how to act like God. I mean, this is unbelievable. If you don't understand this on a deep level, you won't see how shocking and how amazing, beyond belief, that we are made in the image of God. That is a big deal. That means we have the capacity to emulate God. We can act like God. the Kabbalists revealed the specific aspect of each day of the Sefirah. There is a special blessing from heaven that allows us to perfect the Sefirah of the day within ourselves. By the way, this doesn't only apply to Sefirat HaOmer. This applies to every day, every hour, every minute. There is a special Sefirah that is attributed to everything in the world. Chesed corresponds to Sunday. Gevura is Monday. Tiferet is Tuesday. Netzach is Wednesday. Hod is Thursday. Yesod is Friday. While Malchut, which is the vessel that receives the reward for all of the work that you have performed during the 6 days, is called Malchut. That's Shabbat. Of course, in the Jewish calendar, the day is from evening to evening. Not like in the Gregorian calendar where it starts from 12 a.m. and ends at 12 a.m. In the Hebrew calendar, we go from Erev to Erev. Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, Yom Echad. Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, Yom Sheni. So the first prayer of the day is not Shacharit, it's Arvit. The second prayer is Shacharit, and the third prayer is Mincha. The Arizal wrote about the 49 days of the counting of the Omer. It is good for a person to have kavana, which means intention, during these 49 days, to fix every sin within each of these 7 Sefirot. Because each of these Sefirot correspond to a certain character trait. So anytime that we commit a sin, which means anytime that we lust after one of our negative qualities, for example, I might lack kindness. That's not positive. If you lack love, that's not good. You lack fear of God, you lack constraint. That's not good either. We want to maximize our emulation of God, right? We want to reach the tselem of Elohim, the image of God. So the way we do that is through perfecting our character traits. And I like this part. In examining these behaviors, we not only gain a deeper, more beautiful understanding of God, but we gain profound insights into ourselves. For as much as the Sefirot reveal about God Himself, they also hold the key to understanding what it means to have been created in God's image. So these Sefirot are not teaching us only what God is, but it's teaching us what we are, who we are. For as much as the Sefirot reveal about God Himself, they also hold the key to understanding what it means to have been created in the image of God. And just as we must apply a unified understanding to the personality of God, we must understand how these 10 Sefirot work together to comprise the personality of God. We must strive to round out our own personality with the lessons of each Sefirah. He's saying you have to apply what you learn into your life. The only way to have the proper kavana is through honing your character traits, which takes a lot of musar and ethical training, which is not easy. It is more difficult to change one character trait than it is to learn the entirety of Shas. That's not my words, that's Pirkei Avot, which is in the Mishnah. Let's continue. Therefore, the keys to our opening, our maintaining, and our repairing of our relationship with God are bound up in understanding these Sefirot. We are closed in our relationship to God. We are unable to maintain our connection. And there is some sort of a damage that has been made to our relationship with God. When did this happen? This happened in the Garden of Eden when Adam ate from the tree of knowledge of good and bad, which God told Adam not to eat from. Whenever he committed that sin, which we know is a metaphor for something much deeper, a metaphor for receiving for the sake of the selfish desire. As we said, evil really means selfish desire. That's really what it's a metaphor for. What we did is we distanced ourselves from the state of connection that we were once in. Furthermore, the keys to opening, maintaining, and repairing our relationship with others are also held within these behaviors. In the process of examining the Sefirot, we not only perceive the eternal bond that ties us to God, but we also see the equally strong bond that ties us to each other. Learning this wisdom and understanding how the Sefirot interact with each other and how they work and how they are relevant to you doesn't only help you connect to God. It helps you connect to other people. Helps you understand your relationship with your family members, with your wife, with your children. Because the Sefirot are one big family. Chokhmah is Abba. Bina is Ima. Zeiran Pin is the Banim, is the sons. While Malchut is the daughter. This is a family unit. The Keter, which is at the top of all of these Sefirot, is God Himself. Because there are three participants in a marriage. Abba and Ima, and Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is above. The soul comes from Hashem Himself, while the body is made from the union of Abba and Ima. The midot, the character traits, the nature, that's all made and determined by the mother and the father. But the soul itself comes from God. It's a part of God. So part of the journey of spirituality is transcending our nature, if better, transforming our nature, so that we are able to receive the light of the soul, which was given directly by God, within the body. And that is the purpose of this world. That is the mission of Israel, to perfect this world, to rectify all of the vessels so that they can receive the light in a fluid and flowing way, that there may be joy in this world for all. That's the Messianic era. Our goal, therefore, during these 49 days is to examine how each of the Sefirot affects our connection to God, our relationship with each other, and our understanding of ourselves. So there are three things here. Adam lemakom, man versus God. Adam le chavero, man versus his friend or his fellow. And Adam le'atzmo, man versus himself. These are the three types of relationships that a man has between God, others, and himself. We know that those are the three main themes of literature. Either it is the narrator speaking about himself, or the narrator is speaking about someone else. Either it's first person point of view, second person point of view, or third person point of view. Those are the three forms of literature as well. So we begin with the selflessness, which is chesed. Chesed is chesed shebe chesed. It's very deep. It's the chesed of chesed, because we said that there are deeper sub-layers to each of these sefirot. Each of these attributes have another 10 attributes. So we're now looking inside of the attribute of chesed. There are 10 sefirot. The chesed of chesed, meaning the kindness within kindness, refers to a certain character trait. And this is our way that we are supposed to begin with. We have to understand how to be chesed shebe chesed, how to be giving for the sake of giving. And we work our way towards the majesty of malchut shebe malchut, the kingship of kingship, which is a different character trait which we're going to explain, B'ezrat Hashem. To appreciate the way God interacts with the world, it is necessary for us to act in a godly manner. We must act, not just think and speak, but act, because ultimately, this world is the world of action. The body exists not to just sit around and think all day and feel all day. No, the body was created for a reason. You were placed in the body for a reason, because there is work to do. There are actions that need to take place. We perceive God in the world based on how we relate to the world. For example, Abraham, who personified chesed, Abraham personifies the attribute of kindness. He saw God as God of chesed. And that's why in the Amidah, the Shemona Esrei prayer, one of the first blessings that we say inside of it is Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu Velohei Avraham, the God of Abraham. Then there's Velohei Yitzchak, and the God of Isaac. Velohei Yaakov, and the God of Jacob. Because these correspond to different levels of different attributes. The God of Abraham is chesed. shebe chesed. The God of Isaac is chesed shebe gevura. The God of Yitzchak, of Jacob, is chesed shebe tiferet. That is what really the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob means. It means the chesed of gevura, and the chesed of tiferet. So Yitzchak personified gevura, restraint. He saw God as God of gevura. And as we develop our spiritual awareness, we will be able to develop a stronger and more rounded relationship with God. So the main lesson here, as much as the Sefirot reveal about God himself, they also hold the key to understanding what it means to have been created in the image of God. And it's the key to understanding our relationship with others. So not only something mystical and spiritual, but something practical. Something that can help you hone your character traits, help you treat another human being with more love, with more regard. What's better than that? So that's really what the 10 Sefirot are. They are channels through which God interacts with the world, but at the same time, they are attributes within a person that they have to learn to hone and rectify, which means to bring the light down into the vessels. But the only way you can receive that light is if you first build the vessel. You gotta build your container, which means increase your desire to receive oneness with God, to receive cleaving, adhesion with your Creator. The more you want it, the more you have a vessel. That's called building your vessel. It's expanding your desire to be fulfilled. And the light is the fulfillment of the desire, which is the state of oneness that we're looking for. For the light and the vessel to be one. That's peace. That's shalom. For a man and a woman to be one. Light and vessel to be one. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it clarified the concept of the 10 Sefirot a little bit more. And if you're enjoying this type of content, for sure hit the like button because it helps this video reach other people. But at the same time, check out our other videos. I'll put a link to another video on the top of this video called What is the Tree of Life? To understand a little bit of a deeper level through the analogy of a tree. A seed, roots, trunk, branches, and fruits. The 5 stages which are in the 10 Sefirot. There are 10 Sefirot, but there are 10 stages of growth throughout this system. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.